Welcome to Nexus Medical Media. In this video, we'll be talking about the visual analyzer, right? So the visual analyzer is just a combination of the structures which are concerned with reception, transmission, and perception of the visual impulses, right? So the structures include retina, the optic nerve, the optic chiasma, the optic tract, the subcortical visual centers like the lateral geniculate bodies, the two superior colliculi, and the pulvina of the thalamus. We also have the optic radiation and the visual area in the cortex. Right, so let's start with the retina. Right, so in the retina you have the first three neurons, right? Because in total there are 4 neurons which form this visual analyze. So the first 3 are in the retina, right? So the first neurons are light sensitive cells, which are rods and cones basically, right? So these are the photoreceptors, right? So if you remember, the cones are for color vision and the rods are for it's black and white, scotopic vision, black and white. Right, so that's the first part. Then next you have the bipolar cells. Right, so these will synapse with the photoreceptors and the next group of neurons. Right, so these cells are called the ganglion cells. Right, so these ganglion cells are multipolar and their axons will combine, right, to form this bunch of neurons, and we call this the optic nerve. Right, so the optic nerve will leave the eye socket and enter the middle cranial fossa via the optic canal. Right, so here what you are looking at is just a view of the visual pathway. Let's say you have this little guy, right, and we cut here and here is your view, right? So just to give you orientation, this is the right eye. Okay, let me pull up my laser. Right, so this is the right eye and this is the left eye. Right, in the middle you have the nose. So to give you just an orientation, the half of the retina or the hemiretina, which is on the medial side, is called the nasal hemiretina, and the other one on the lateral side is called the temporal hemiretina. Right, so this is the temporal hemiretina of the right eye. Right, so to start with, you have the visual fields, right? So if you close one eye, just close one eye, and then the remaining eye that is open has 2 visual fields, the right and left. Light or sensitivity or the stimulus from the right visual field will go to the nasal hemiretina, and the stimulus from the left visual field will go to the temporal hemiretina, right? And if you follow these fibers, right, so let's just start with the stimulus from the lateral visual field, or from the left visual field, not lateral, left, because I said left and right. So left visual field will go to the temporal hemiretina, and here if you follow them, if you follow these neurons, right, until they reach these subcortical centers, which I will talk about, and if you look on the right visual field to the nasal hemiretina and crossing to the other side, and you reach these visual centers, right? So let's label what we have here, right? Right. So the first part, I remember from the previous slide, I mentioned that the optic nerve will enter the middle cranial fossa via this foramen or canal. Is called the optic canal or canalis optica, right? So here we are in the middle cranial fossa, and here is the optic nerve. Right, so the optic nerve, right and left, in the region right above the sella turcica, right, or the Turkish saddle, you have this decussation of the nerve fibers. This is called the optic chiasma. This is where you have like the nerve fibers from the right visual fields, and then from the nasal hemiretina cross to the contralateral side. Here you can see the stimulus from the left visual fields of the left eye going to the nasal hemiretina and then crossing to the contralateral side, right? So here is the optic chiasma, right? This whole part, right? And after the optic chiasma, what you have here is called the optic tract. Optic tract, right? So the fibers in the optic tract will end here in the lateral geniculate body. Lateral geniculate bodies. Bodies two, of course, right and left, right? So fibers from the lateral geniculate bodies have three main pathways, and again these are the subcortical structures, right? So lateral geniculate body is more like this nucleus is in a relation to the thalamus, so there is another region called the pulvina, right? Pulvina of the thalamus, right? So the fibers will go to, we have three pathways, right? So let's just say 1, 2, and 3, right? On number 1, let me just put it here, they go to the pretactile nucleus. It's pretactile nucleus. This is a pathway to do with accommodation. I will talk about it in another video, right? So on number 2, you have the superior colliculus. And on number 3 is the beginning of the optic radiations, right? So where are these going? These are going to the occipital lobe. That's where we have the cortical visual center, right? So we have two groups, right? So the first group of fiber will move via the parietal lobe, right? This is known as Barham slope. I'm not gonna write that, right? And then another group will go via the temporal lobe. This is known as the Meyer slope. I'm not going to write down that. And where are these radiations going? They are going to Brodmann area 17. These are just the margins of the medial side of the occipital lobe around the calcarine fissure. Calcarine fissure. That's where you find the cortical visual center, right? So area 17 is the main one, but they are associations, right? uh, so the impulses in general will be combined with the past experiences, and the past experiences are stored in the parastriate and pre-striate areas 18 and 19, right? So if you look at something, you just remember it because like those visual images are stored there, right? The other thing that you need to know is like the area of the visual cortex that receives impulse from the macula is relatively much larger, right, compared to the rest of the retina, right? So uh, I'm sure I have a video on the structure of the eyeball, and I talked about the macula, the fovea centralis, right? So just check out that video. Okay, so to sum it up, this is basically it, the visual pathway, right? So I said your eye will have two visual fields, the right and left visual field, right? And the impulses will be crossing to the opposite side, right? So temporal hemiretina and the nasal hemiretina, right? So if you look here, uh, so if you look here, we have the optic nerve leaving the orbit via the optic canal, right? And here you have your optic nerve, and here there is a crossing of fibers at the optic chiasm. Here we have the optic tract, going to the lateral geniculate bodies, right? And I said fibers from the lateral geniculate bodies will go to the pretectal nucleus, to the superior colliculus, and optic radiations. Here you have the parietal, the superior optic radiations going via the parietal lobe, and the inferior going on the temporal lobe. And where are they going? Medial side of the occipital lobe, around the calcarine fissure, right? Those margins, that's where you find the visual cortex and Brodmann area 17 in association with 18 and 19 as the parastriate and pre-striate areas, right? So I hope this video was helpful, and if you enjoy, just give it a thumbs up. This is a new way. As you can see, I haven't been making videos lately, and just trying to find a way to make good presentation. So tell me what you think in the comment section. Until next time.